Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined by John Riggio, our architect and our tennis pro, to talk more about his amazing career and, again, all that he's accomplished. We're excited to have him back joining us today here live from, well, he's in my nearby neighbor state. He's in New Jersey. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm fantastic. John Riggio, the legend, joining us today, and a man who wears many hats. John, tell us a little bit about yourself and career to start.
Yes, of course. A lot of times I talk about my architect profession, but today I'm going to continue talking about some stories about my tennis career in the past. I have some nice things to talk about. I'm going to talk about the different levels of the tournaments, how they work. I enter into the tournaments, moving through them. And then I was just going to just summarize some things about last week. Because I just thought about some facts of the past and what had happened. So what had happened there in the Alley Pond at that time was the tournament that I had won was called the Fisher Open. And this is sponsored by the Fisher Tennis Racket Company. They provided advertising, so they put their name on it. And the tournament went really good. It was a very high tournament. It included all the same people that were involved with the 87 US Open. So it involved everyone there. They all were trying to win this. And so I was playing it, and I did so amazing that it came down to a final match. And the final match was against another top-ranked player. And there, what happened was, just to summarize from last week, is Richard Branson was present, Sir Richard Branson, and he was there, and he, of course, was my sponsor, and he was there on one side of the tennis center, and my opponent was on the other side of the tennis center, and they were sitting behind this glass wall. And there was sign wrap all around. It was on ESPN. Television cameras were there. They had all kinds of professional photographers. And also, I think one thing I was pointing out was this was really big because I was there. I invited family, friends, and one of my girlfriends that I have talked about before, Delilah, she was there.
Yes.
This is a big stage because we have our professional pictures were taken there by our sponsors, and I don't have copies of them. Maybe one day I can find them, but they took pictures of them, and so this whole event went great. I won the tournament. I had the pictures of myself with the trophy, myself and Richard Branson with the trophy. Everything went great, and I even received a free tennis racket from my tennis sponsor, Patrick Mulrooney, and at the tennis shop. So I received a gift from that too. So everything went really good. And then I think one interesting thing is, at this point I was explaining some things about the time frame between one sponsor to the next. Because I think last week I talked about some interesting things about the player and myself as the player, advertising myself, getting involved with some things, building my own professional tennis, like publicizing myself, maybe getting news released from this whole tournament and things like that, and trying to work on those things. And those were recommended to me by other tennis players. So that was one thing. But I think more important really with this is the tennis playing. What happens is, when you start off as the pro tennis player, a sponsor decides to have you play, and they have this thing with the ATP of taking a name. And this has been a big problem over the years. This thing is, whenever they change from one sponsor to the next, they ask for a new tennis name, as if I'm a completely new player. The previous player is not there anymore. And somehow, because of that reason, it makes it where I am like a brand new player starting off, maybe just turning 18. And this causes this whole problem with starting to play through the tournaments. So I think one thing is the tournaments start off, and I have a description. I
Sure.
wrote a little description of them. Let me just put it on here.
Sure.
Okay, this is it here. Okay, great. So now let me just move this over.
All right. Oh,
Okay, so this is showing the tournament levels.
I just see the blue screen. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, so let me see. Let's stop the sharing on this. Okay, because this is sharing to a it's what it did is it shared to.
Like the regular window screen, it was up. But I saw the notes before that, so
Oh, okay.
like if you hit share screen, right, it gives you the option to hit share, and you should pick the application window that you want. But you had it before, so I'm sure you'll figure it out again. It'll be up in a sec.
Okay, so what I did here, let me just close this then. Okay, let's try it again.
Sure.
Okay, how about now? Can you see the page?
Yep, I see it. Well, I just saw it. It disappeared. You had a what? I see the blue again. I just see the windows, like the four.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yep. American Airlines, Manhattan Eastern. I see that.
Yes. Okay, so what's happening
There
here
we
is
go.
these at the time were the going
hmm
tournaments. Now, what I was explaining is very interesting. So, say if I have a sponsor, it's brand new. I say the sponsor is going to have me play tennis, and it goes for maybe 6 months a year. Okay, so what happens is I have to enter into the tournaments down here. Can you see like the little pointer hand coming across?
The little hand. Yep. hmm
Okay, good. So I'm putting it across here. What happens is you enter into this area here, and they start to set up matches. They put you on the ATP Tour matches,
hmm
and a lot of times you might even have to play through some people who are really playing ITF level tennis. And you play through them. Then you move up, going through the different tournaments they have. They have a lot of different tournaments, different level tournaments, moving up through here, going past maybe national
hmm
tournament. And the national tournament has different tracks depending on your age. Some of them are all the way down here at level 5.5,
Okay.
which is usually the very starter of the national tournaments. Some of them are more like a pro level, and that leads to the Davis Cup over here. So this is those tournaments. Then you say you go through here, and they have some tournaments called VNA, and you play through those tournaments. Then they have tournaments in between those, and the list that most people know, the U.S. Open, Laver, French Open, and Wimbledon. And I think a lot of people know that
hmm
locally because we have the U.S. Open over here locally, so a lot of people know the tournaments. And so this is the tournaments. But what happens is, so between these tournaments, you get to the U.S. Open level tournaments, which is what I was describing at Ali Pond. Now, what happens is if you play another 6 months and you have the ability to keep winning, you start to move up to the next level. There's all tournaments between here and these tournaments. There's a whole set of tournaments. And I think the level between this level and here is another 250 player levels. So there's a lot of tournaments here. So I've been able to reach this number of times. I think it had to do with the number of months and years I was playing for
Okay.
sponsors. So I originally when I started off with my pro shop in Hicksville, and with the pro shop in Hicksville, they found me the sponsor Prince Racket Company.
Ooh.
Now with those two, I also had, of course, the signed contract with the tennis
Yeah.
center, Anthony Cambria. Now that lasted a long time. That was when I was like 13, going all the way up until Richard Branson in 1987. So that lasted a long time. And in that time, I played through everything here on the list. And so as a junior, I did win some of these tournaments that I'm showing here on number one. I won a number of them. I don't remember all of them.
How could
There
you?
are, yes, there are some photographs of me with the trophy.
hmm
I did win some big ones. I don't remember the names of them. And this is, I think, in the news these days, you mostly hear the word Eastern Tournament or Roland Garros have been advertised a lot in our area, along with the tournaments, U.S. Open, Laval, French Open, and Wimbledon. But in fact, the Roland Garros and the Eastern, um, I don't know if they still are as high, but they're really a higher level tournament. So those
Mm.
are really higher level tournaments. And so this, to get from playing through the U.S. Open level to head up to these tournaments, it takes more months of playing. And so that's one aspect of when my contract was getting bought from one sponsor to the next. There was this time frame, a certain number of months of playing, moving up through uh, the different tournaments, winning them, keeping the playing percentage, and so I think so my contract that was sold with at Ali Pond with Richard Branson was really over here, and that's so the next few months I could really continue to move here. Then I think the next one, my next sponsor was with Gloria Vanderbilt
Wow.
and her sports group, and that really lasted longer, and I was able to move all the way back up to where I played the Eastern. I won the Eastern. I won all of these. Roland Garros, I had to go. We had to skip that because we couldn't get over to Spain to play that and that particular run of tournaments. And then with these also, it works very similar with the players internationally. It is exactly the same with the players internationally, depending on how they're able to get around.
hmm
And then I had explained that with Ross Perot, I think that playing run could have lasted a little longer because what happened is we started to get up the same way going up through the US Open level. I was winning all of those again. I won all the tournaments with that group again. And then we are ready to head up to the next level with the American Airlines Open, Manhattan Eastern, here London Queens, Paris Burke, and Roland Garros. And I think those, then there's all tournaments in between there too. I have shows
hmm
the tournaments, all kinds of very nice tournaments. They have the Chicago tournament, Tennessee, Dallas, Texas, Miami. They have a lot of tournaments in that grouping. There's a lot of players going around playing these. So this was really good. So I think that one might have been a little stopped short too. I think instead of getting the experience to go up to these at that point again, I played all those teams in the Pacific instead. So that was a good experience and won those tournaments. They were they nice enough to come here and play me. So those were something new. And but that's really how it works. And I think what happened is uh, at each time we were trying to get games going and started, what happens is
hmm
it goes all the way back down here again. You start under here, under ITF.
Okay.
You start off playing some basic tour matches. First, you start off with maybe 3 to 5 warm-up matches that
hmm
don't even count. And then you would slowly move your way up, winning through here. And I had to do this even when things went from Addy Pond over to the Sutton East location. I had to go all the way back down here. They had me play all of these over again. I played all of them over. And so from the $5 million contract that was sold in 2 weeks,
Wow.
I started playing all of these, and my sponsors made $25 million in 2 weeks.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, they couldn't believe it. That's why I was an amazing player. They couldn't believe what was going on. I was able to play right through all of these, coming right up through these tournaments, winning all of them. And I didn't win every tournament. Every once in a while I'd lose a match. And so I would go through and play all of these, and that was really how it works. So I think each number of months between the uh, playing,
Mm-hmm.
you had to extend. And I think that I was playing in at the Sun East, and Robert Kraft, who was one of the sponsors, that's what he was wondering about something going on with the tennis playing contract being continued on because
Yeah.
he was also commenting that for some reason they can somehow stop tennis contract and it doesn't get renewed and this and we have no idea why it wouldn't get renewed. I don't know if you're just playing tennis, you're winning matches, why it wouldn't get renewed. And this is one thing is so if I had a tennis contract and it stopped in 6 months, there's no way to go from all the way here, all the way up to level one and play them in 6 months. You can't really, I mean, you need some more time to really
Yeah.
build them. And then you would probably think, why would my contract stop anyway? Even if
Mm-hmm.
so, if I'm playing, everything's good, I'm winning tournaments, and there's no problems. I
Ah,
don't. So you probably wonder why would a player's contract get stopped anyway? So that
yeah.
was one thing that was starting to happen. Of wondering why my contract will get stopped. Maybe it was people probably trying to stop me so they can win the tournament. I mean, that's one possibility. But as far as I was concerned, that was one issue that was going on. And then the next thing is selling my contract early was, their own decision. They could do it. It's their business. But what happened is I was starting to just look at that whole certain list of tournaments I would play through, and they're sort of stopping it a little early.
Yeah.
It was stopping it over here usually because most people know U.S. Open level tournaments. But in fact, if you just wait like another 6 months, I get to play all of these in here. There's so many tournaments in between this level and
Mm-hmm.
this level, and they are all very good tournaments. For instance, I was talking about some other players like Guillermo Villas. Guillermo Villas plays right up
Mm-hmm.
level. So a lot of players do play from here up to here. Now, a lot of players, what they do is they play from here. Some players were never even a pro as a junior, under
Wow.
18 years old. They only became a pro after they're 18. For some reason, people only developed into a pro player when they're older. I was a pro player when I was younger, went through winning all of these, and then as an adult of 18, was able to play through these. But a lot of people, what they like to do is they like to come up to here to this group of tournaments, which are advertised locally a lot, and they don't want to go
Wow.
any higher anyway. They like this level.
Mm-hmm.
This level has some nice things about it that they like. They like some of these have taken to some things like building those stadiums, like baseball. So they make it like a baseball event.
Yep.
And they have some nice things with some advertising, local TV. And this is so they like staying here. They don't want to start losing matches coming up here.
Yep.
I can come up here. I can win these matches. I this is really good. And the people playing these also, they sort of have the same understanding of what's going on with tennis. That they have this level over here where there's a lot of advertising for them. And but this is pretty good. And I think this is also good for the sponsors too. Going through here. I mean, and doing this, and so this is pretty good. So this is one thing, and I think so that is one thing is about this run through the tournaments, which is really interesting. And I don't know if anyone really visualized something like this. I wrote this down just thinking about it, thinking about the years past and playing these tournaments. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
anyone played all of these tournaments. There's only a few players that might have gone all the way through level 5.5. getting from five, taking the 5.5 test and making it into the national tournament is a whole big event for each player to go through something like that. I had gone through that also. That is very interesting. And then when you make it over that, then you play through this whole thing with the going past the Davis Cup and into these tournaments. And the one interesting thing is also is that some people who are playing ITF. Now ITF is a pro league, and just it has more like a minor league. The only thing about ITF is if you are just ITF, they don't want you to play up. The only
Oh.
way you can play up is if you were to really make it. Like when I tested
Oh.
players on court 33, we had this thing where I tested some players
Mm-hmm.
and they let two players move ahead into the ATP. So that
Yeah.
gives them the ability to try to make it all the way up to here, to these tournaments. So they could try to do it. If they could win in here, I mean, that's really good for them. They could do this. But what they usually do is if you're playing just ITF, they usually don't like you moving up through there. A lot of people who are ATP, from talking to the other pro players, some of them move down and play ITF tournaments. They allow them to move down. So you
Okay.
could, people who are playing up here, so if you made it to ATP, some people play ITF anyway. They like playing those ITF tournaments, and they're able to do that in tennis. I think in other sports, I don't know if you see people moving down to play in like a minor league and then moving back up again. So that is another thing that's different about tennis than other sports. So that is one interesting thing. And so that is a very interesting thing. And so what was happening, like for instance, at the Aripan was really keeping the plane going another 6 months or more could really make it. I could start to get into here. There's more money winning, and I think more playing for me, more growing of my own
Hmm.
professional tennis and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think
Wow.
that was now. So from entering through here, going all the way up, I've been able to do it with a few of the sponsors. Some of them ended a little short. They sold short, and it's up to them. But I don't know if they were aware of this whole thing of going from here all the way up. Now, this whole thing with coming all the way back down here, it doesn't bother me to, if there's like a few months off and I come in here, it gives me a little warm-up time. I get to warm up, and then I get to start to play some players, moving up slowly, which is good. I get to start to improve my playing. My playing becomes much sharper again, and then I'm really ready to start to play these tournaments. I could really play through them very good. I I think this, and that has to do with the strangest thing of when you change sponsors, they want you to act like you're a brand new player. You have a new name. Your old name is someone else, and your new name is this. You're a brand new player. It's the strangest thing. I don't know what is the story with that. It's really strange, and I think years ago, I think talking to my say like my lawyer. I talked to my lawyer, and I think by talking to my lawyer also, I talked to my lawyer's husband was there. Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, and he took a look at my contract, and he was noticing this thing with the names changing, and
Okay.
not approve of it at all. He
Oh.
said the same thing. He said this thing with the names. And the names also are names that they are
Mhm.
pushing on my sponsors, and I have to use them too. It's
Okay.
not acceptable. So I don't know what the story is. I think that's why at this time I'm just using my own name and just putting everything together. I think from when one sponsor changed to the next sponsor, they didn't necessarily have a complete record of all my class past playing, which is really very interesting. They didn't have a record of my past playing. I
Wow.
usually have to just describe with them. I didn't have anything writing myself. I wasn't noting down what
Mm-hmm.
the playing was. So that was very interesting. And so that is one interesting thing about what was happening at that point. And I think at this point I think there was some notes I was just thinking about the past just to correct what was saying was
Sure. Yeah. We just have only
so,
one more minute left in the show.
oh, okay. So at Audi Pond, what happened was I had won the Fisher Open, and then after that, I had won a series of tournaments. I'm remembering some number that we had discussed, and it was really I had won 11 trophy tournaments that Helena Sokova had witnessed there
Wow.
at the tennis center. She was rooting for me,
Of
and
course.
there are photographs of me with the tournaments. And I think there was also a few tournaments that I played in, and they were taking a guess that I was going to lose one of the matches, and then they would have the final over in the tennis center with someone else. So what they did is when I didn't lose the match,
Mm-hmm.
just told me I'm not allowed to play in the tournament anymore. They want someone else
What?
to win it. So I think about three of them, they
That's an
excluded me.
honor.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. Amazing. Well, let's talk about how we can contact you, John. If we have any questions, want to reach out?
Sure, you can just go to my Facebook page. It's John Riggio, pro tennis player. You could just send me a message, and I have all kinds of pictures and things like that for you to look at. It's really good.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Always a pleasure having you here and looking forward to the next time we get to connect. Hopefully, it's next week, John. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.